Hello and welcome to the Organic MD podcast. My name is Carlisle Koash, and I am here with Dr. Damon P. Miller II. How are you doing, Damon?
It's it's an odd time in the world, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm really glad to be here. You sound strong. You sound good. I'm glad to hear that.
Doing what I can.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we're here today. This is the first of an 8-part series. 8-part series. Don't glaze over. Stay with us here. The first of an 8-part series, soon to be a major book. But we wanted to kind of introduce it in pieces here just to get you going. And if you have or know someone close to you that has been diagnosed with a degenerative eye disease, things like macular degeneration, that's the most common, Stargardt disease, which is basically just the juvenile form of macular degeneration, retinitis pigmentosa, and then a few other odd ones, cone rod dystrophy and things like that. Those are diseases they're now the major causes of blindness in people over 65. And they're diseases that just by the miracle of how life works, it turns out we've found in our practice ways to work with those, to deal with those, and even to reverse the vision loss that those kinds of diseases cause. And that's really what we're here to talk about. It's not something you're going to hear about from your board certified ophthalmologist. Even if they know about it, they're not going to tell you about it. But they are going to tell you that they don't have anything to offer you. So hopefully you found this podcast, you found us, because you're not going to accept that there's nothing you can do. You're out there looking and you found us. And so we're here today to begin to tell you about the things you need to know so that you can heal your vision. So, I don't know, Carlisle, what do you think?
It's essential that we remember that the body has this incredible ability to regenerate, to heal itself, if we give it support to do that. And this is something that we're talking about degenerative eye disease in these next few episodes. This can be applied to so many other things. So the same template, I think, plays out for a lot of different illnesses and issues. And so I think even if you're like, well, I don't have this issue, you might actually know someone who does. So that's also important to remember. But even if that's not the case, listening to the kind of things that we're talking about here will inform how you could approach something else that you're doing. And we have seen over and over again, there's certainly plenty of films and research and things done about this where people are taking these, what are considered maybe alternative or different approaches, and finding results. And it's because it's connecting to some inherent wisdom that our body is able to heal and rebalance itself if we give it a chance.
Yeah. And that's really kind of what it's all about here at Organic MD. And, things like the degenerative eye diseases, they're sort of the perfect thing to use to talk about just what you were saying there, Carlisle, about how, we're talking about dealing with a particular subset of challenges that people have in terms of eye disease, but the approach really has much broader application. But, the kind of story I hear all the time, people come in, they've been diagnosed with macular degeneration, and like Carlisle said, you probably know somebody. There's estimated there's probably 25 to 28 million people in the United States alone who have macular degeneration. It is a genetically determined disease, meaning you probably have some gene that predisposes you to it. Although the majority of the people with that gene, and we're going to talk about genes much later in the series of podcasts, but the majority of the people with that gene never have any problems at all. But if you do have a problem, you probably have an abnormal gene. And when you're talking about, 1 in 8 people or something like that in the United States having this problem, in your workplace, in your church, go to the grocery store. I mean, there's bound to be somebody there who's got it. So you do know people with this. But I mentioned the genetic part because it really helps you understand how a program like what we're going to be talking about can work. But usually what happens is people get diagnosed and, they have a $10,000 workup in the eye doctor's office that their insurance pays for. And after all that incredible workup, the doctor comes in, you're sitting there kind of quaking, wondering what they found, sits down next to you. The doctor puts their hand on your knee, looks at you and says, "I'm so sorry. These problems you're having with your vision, it's not that you need a new pair of glasses. You've got a degenerative disease that's destroying your retina, and it's called macular degeneration. That's the most common, or retinitis pigmentosa, or Stargardt. Doesn't really matter. They're all very similar. And we really don't have anything to offer you. We don't have a drug. We don't have a surgery. We've got some procedures we'll talk about in a bit that might be needed. But we don't have anything to help you." And then the doctor gets up and walks out of the room. And you're just there going, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" And well, the first thing you do is you get pretty depressed, but we'll be dealing with that too. But the point is that you just one, I guess I'll just keep it simple. Just consider this. I've said that virtually 100% of people who get macular degeneration, well, we're going to talk about macular degeneration, not name all the other diseases, because these diseases all respond very well to the kinds of interventions we're going to talk about. And macular degeneration is the most common, and Stargardt, the juvenile form of it. So we'll stick with those, but realize I don't care which particular diagnosis name your eye condition was given, if it's a degenerative retinal disease or a retinopathy or a maculopathy, all these fancy words, but we're talking about you. If you have one of those and you understand that there's a gene that predisposed you to it, and macular degeneration, the most common form of that, you don't even have problems until you're in your fifth or sixth or seventh or eighth decade. In other words, you're pretty old by the time you even realize you have an eye problem, and you've probably been pretty healthy. This is not part of a syndrome, not a lot of other problems associated with it. So, if you ask yourself the obvious question, well, hey, I've had this abnormal gene from birth. How did I get to be 70 years old and not have any troubles in my eye? Well, that happens because your body has been working on your behalf, healing whatever damage and degeneration was occurring for all those 70 years. Something has happened that's robbed you of a little bit of health, and now your body can't keep up with the forces of degeneration, and so you start to notice problems. But if you understand that we're not trying to repair the most complex tissue in the entire body, we're simply trying to make your eyes in this program, 5 years healthier, give you the eyes you had when you were 65, when everything was fine. And that's doable. Making your eyes a little bit healthier, suddenly everything that's kept your eyes healthy for all those decades kicks in again, actually repairs things, you regain vision. And I'm not going to tell you that it's easy. It takes some diligence and work, but it's doable. We've seen it over and over again, tens of thousands of people. And not just me, but the other people who do this kind of work. So you just need to realize that kind of medical hexing that doctors are so famous for, just gloom and doom and nothing you can do, and sorry, just get prepared to go blind. That is probably malpractice, certainly uncalled for, and it's wrong. There are things you can do. These diseases can reverse themselves. You can regain vision. Eye cells, brain cells, spinal cord cells, they can regenerate. The body is it's an amazing healing machine. So we're here to, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that you've talked about that has been a change is that you do see ophthalmologists before they leave the room say, well, there are, here's this packet of supplements or vitamins, like we've seen to maybe work, but still there's not a lot of guidance around it. And then I think there's this piece around the, diagnosis and prognosis. So sure, yes, a diagnosis gives you information about something. And I think where you have this sort of medical hexing, if you will, is in this prognosis of there's nothing that can be done. But the thing that's interesting to me is that I think the folks I know who are really good physicians or good medical practitioners or health practitioners are able to say, okay, here's the limit of what I'm able to do as this discipline. So since my discipline is surgeries and et cetera, well, the situation you're dealing with, I can't help. There's nothing that I do that will be of benefit. So that, and then being able to say, so, okay, here's my limitation. However, here are other things that do have shown to potentially be effective. Let me get you to those practitioners or to those things. Like that to me is awakened medicine, if you will, or balanced medicine, where that practitioner can actually just be humble enough to say, yeah, here's my limit. Doesn't mean that that's it totally. Do you know what I mean? Like there's this whole other thing that at least we see some people have gotten success from, and here let's see what that's about. But what tends to happen is, well, my expertise says there's nothing else to do, so we're done, and
Yeah.
you're done. Like you just have to give up now. And I
Yeah.
think that's that piece that is,
Yeah.
is the limit that's unhelpful and lazy, I think, a little bit, because you're just devoiding the whole conversation. You're voiding out the conversation and what can go forward. So anyway, just
Yeah. Well, and on what I see most often, if we're going to see anything that's positive, is rarely do the ophthalmologists actually point you in the direction of something, even if they know about it. But the one thing they can at least do, and I hear, this does happen, is they would say, there may be things out there. Go look around, see what you can find. If you find something that works, come back and tell me about it. So they at least don't discourage you. They encourage, because that's really what this is about. What we do, what we'd like to see all doctors do, is encourage, not discourage. And I'm here to encourage you. There are definitely things you can do. We're going to be talking about them in the coming podcasts, and the supplements are a good point. That's going to be the second podcast that we do, is talking about the half century of research about supplements for treating degenerative eye disease, and kind of what the state of that work is, and how it plays a role in what you want to be doing for your eye disease. Because it is a piece. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. You need supplements, but supplements alone won't do it. And we're going to talk more about that in the next podcast. So I don't know. Do you think we got the point across, Carlisle?
I think so.
Okay.
These are sharp people. We don't
Yeah.
belabor the point.
Well, and they found us somehow because they are out there looking. So we have good information for you. Check back. We're going to probably put these up in about one every week for the next 8 weeks. Okay. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. And then also at this time, check out the other podcast we've got about some things just about the coronavirus. The other thing that's going on right now as we record this. Okay. Thank you all. We'll see you in a week.
Bye.